All right, thanks, Matt. So, Golgari Midrange versus Izzet Pyromancer. Certainly, this format has not run out of diversity yet, as these two decks are not mainstream, expected decks that you're going to prepare for facing off against each other here.
And yeah, Raja both unconventional decks. On the right, we have Izzet Pyromancer. So this is effectively 8 Pyromancers. The Young Pyromancer, of course, but also Third Path Iconoclast as a fairly recent addition to that list, both just churning out 1/1s whenever you cast non-creature spells, and the rest of the deck built with the expectation of having one of those. And then on Raja's side, we associate Raja with control decks, right? You're flawlessly playing these blue-white ban control decks. He also has another style in him, and this is these black mid-range decks, affectionately called Rajas. So black-white Rajas. We've had black-red Rajas in the past. This is Golgari Rajas. This is cool mid-range cards from Raja's Trade Binder, and he's going to stitch together wins with the deck anyway because that's how good he is.
Yeah, excellent. Well, this should be fun to watch here. And so first thing to say, Max Matteson here, with the hand revealed, is it possible that Raja thinks, based on that he's up against a slightly unusual build of Arclight Phoenix? I mean, I don't know that he could, but like the cards he sees here, that doesn't fit into anything natural, right?
It's a little unusual. You're going to be asking some questions. I would say Make Disappear might point you in the direction of, okay, my opponent's going to have a lot of stuff to sacrifice. How do we get to that point? And then also with tournaments like this, if you're at the top tables, maybe you're playing next to these players every time, you kind of get the lay of the land and see what's going on. So I think Raja's going to know what's up. Whether Max can anticipate the weird and wonderful range of cards in Raja's deck is another story.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have much to work on it so far, except for land drops, obviously. And looking for one of his creatures, there are 12 creatures in Max Matteson's deck. They are all 2 drops. And there we have one. Okay, well, that's a good place to be. Third Path Iconoclast with a Fading Hope to save it, or a Make Disappear to protect it. This might not be too easy for Raja to deal with, even though it's maybe not the most threatening card at this point.
But yeah, if you try to initiate a fight, then some tokens are being made, whether or not the Iconoclast actually dies, and either way, it's kind of done its job at that stage. We'll see if Raja has removal, or what else is going on, because after that Thoughtseize, not much has happened from Raja's side in this game so far.
Yeah, and this is there's a decent amount of creatures in this deck, creatures and vehicles, so he's bound to have something. And okay, Fatal Push comes across here. Max, no response here. Doesn't interested in Fading Hope to save it. So let's it go. And now it's a Duress. So main deck Duress, and Max is like, are you serious?
The hits just keep coming. So we see another Iconoclast. It looks like another Make Disappear behind that, and then the Strangle and the Fading Hope that we knew already. So knowing about those Make Disappears, it makes them a lot easier to play against, and you can kind of render those cards obsolete fairly quickly.
Certainly. Yeah, and having another copy of Iconoclast in hand explain why Max wasn't interested in protecting the first one. Raja's going to check out Make Disappear here, make sure it's, not quite as threatening. Yeah, I don't know what he chooses here. We don't know what's in his hand. Fading Hope to protect Iconoclast might be the card I would look at.
Yeah, Fading Hope also one of the less conditional answers to just the big stuff that Raja has in his own deck. So
sure.
Makes sense on both ends there.
Yeah, and Raja, okay, now with 2 Make Disappears to play against, he can, like you were saying, he can kind of just defeat those cards just by making land drops. And Max sees, his early game here was set up to be very effective if Raja played into the Make Disappears. Since he hasn't really consisted of a whole much, and here's a Sheoldred, and okay.
Yeah, so trading for 2 cards effectively will leave a 1/1 behind on the way out, but I think Raja's pretty happy with that exchange. There's a Tasigur as a follow-up, and that's a 4/5. You can strangle that, but you need something else to finish it off. And the way that Make Disappear lines up here is Max had to commit to sacrificing the creature to the casualty ability, and at that point, Raja knows, okay, well, I can pay 2, can't pay 2+2, so I can just let that go, and I have that 2 mana left over for a follow-up, like the Tasigur.
Yeah, and that was, what Raja didn't need to think about that at all. He had that play lined up. He knew what was going to happen there. He got what he wanted, but Max here with the Treasure Cruise to recover here, so certainly both players' decks functioning now.
but both players delving it up. We will confirm with the table spotter if Max should have that token with just the exact timing window with the casualty and the sacrifice, whether that trigger still goes in there.
Yeah, I thought about that too, and I wasn't sure, but I do know there are some interactions where you would not actually benefit from getting that token. Russia's sacrifice activates Tasigur here and does find a Scavenging Ooze, so that's a nice pickup.
Yeah, Max's deck not quite as graveyard centric as something like a Phoenix deck, but still a nice tool to have in these longer games.
Yeah, certainly. All right, so Tasigur does come through, connect. Max chooses not to block with the token. I guess the token does have some value with the other Make Disappear in handy, even if it's not planning on getting through for much damage, obviously.
It's kind of nice to see Tasigur again. It used to be a card that would slot into these fair decks. Has fallen out of favor in that context. We're seeing it now as a combo piece of sorts in these Neoform Attractor lists. But Raja, kind of with this throwback from a few years ago, just Thoughtseize into Fatal Push into Tasigur. That's a pretty potent mid-range recipe.
Yeah, he's playing it fair here. And you're right. You don't see that anymore. In fact, I would say there was probably a very brief window where that I was seen at all. Tasigur seems like a cool card, but I don't know that it had much of an impact overall in tournament play for, really at any point in time, except as being just a body on a Delve creature. It didn't. The ability is cool, but I mean, how many times does that really get activated?
The thing is, these days, is every card does everything and also is a mana sink, and so just the unique selling point of Tasigur isn't quite what it used to be. We do have a judge here, just going over that interaction from last turn, checking the ruling, making sure the game is going according to plan. So as we do that, worth noting that Raja, one of two players qualified for our end of year championship already as the guy who just won it last year, in contention for first top 8 here in this season. Also, the other player, Steven Dykman, who booked his slot there this morning by winning our modern 10K overnight and then winning this morning. At 5-1 as well, looking for the back-to-back. So both two very distinguished players looking to add even more to their resumes there.
Yeah, certainly impressive displays. Raja Sulaiman winning last year, defeating Jesse Robkin in the finals. Certainly a tough opponent, well-earned victory for him. And okay, so you see the judge making the ruling here, figuring out what all was actually supposed to happen.
Yeah, so some time has passed since then, so I don't know if that could be reversed at this point, but that is a question for the judge, of course, and would encourage people to always call the judge to help clear out confusion in spots like this. So the token has been banished from the battlefield, so I think maybe we have a resolution here and our game will continue.
Yeah. Looks the way it is. I mean, if that token had been sacrificed to the other Make Disappear, then things would have been messier. But as it is, it was just sitting on the board, it is removed, and we can continue on. Question in the chat about deck lists. Today's deck list will be available in a couple hours when the top 8 begins. Yesterday's deck lists are all available on MTG Melee. So if you're looking for the new modern tech from the weekend, you can search through all 287 lists and see what you can find. Meanwhile, Pyromancer enters play and gets picked off by Abrupt Decay immediately.
Okay, opt in response. Gonna try and change the spells together here. Abrupt Decay, another classic mid-range card that we really haven't seen that much in Pioneer, but pretty perfect. We were trying to kill a cheap threat through Make Disappear.
Yeah, and Max was denied his earlier token, but he's like, okay, I earned this one. This one's going to stay. So the Elemental on the board, and yeah, Raja looking, I mean, with his collection of cards, looking very much in control of this game.
Yeah, we got the Hive of the Eye Tyrant there. If we want to fire that up, add some more pressure as well.
Yeah, numerous ways to attack the graveyard. And I just love incidental ways to do things. Like, okay, we have Scavenging Ooze, which is a decent card, attacks the graveyard. Hive, decent land, attacks the graveyard. Scavenging Ooze incidentally gains life. I mean, it's just useful stuff that can be, applied to more than one scenario, which is kind of what these decks consist of. And here is...
Yeah, so Tasigur being activated, milling just lands, and so he is guaranteed to get back that Abrupt Decay. The opponent's not going to have the choice there. And following up with a Thoughtseize.
All right. Max can deny this with Make Disappear plus token, but that doesn't seem super appealing. But maybe if there's a Treasure Cruise in hand he wants to protect, he would consider that.
Yeah, it looks like that's the line.
Yeah. Okay, that is going to be it. All right, so sack the token, make Spear, counter the Thoughtseize. And
Raja, I think holding off on that ooze that we know about until can grow it twice, get it out of the strangle range. It's just been face up since the first turn of the game, effectively.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, 2 mana for another creature for Max. Yeah, Ledger Shredder this time. Pyromancer, okay. Connive Triggers. Raja will let that happen.
Yeah, force him to commit to the Connive before potentially trying to Abrupt Decay. Oh, wow. So leaving both of those in play lets Max get the discount on of one mine. So two in a blue, you draw 2 cards. But if you have a human and a non-human in play, you get a discount, just costs a single blue mana instead.
Yeah, and Raja kind of ran his fingers over his forehead there. It may be a little bit of a sigh, like, oh, I guess I could have and should have killed a Shredder if I knew that was going to happen. But again, you're playing against this deck. I mean, if you think about it, okay, of one might make sense to be in this deck. However, this is a deck you probably haven't played against very often, and sometimes it's not like the play lines are not like built in yet. You have to think them through as they happen. And all right, here's Decay on the Pyromancer, actually.
And it's one of the neat synergies of this Pyromancer deck that Young Pyromancer is a human, but it makes elementals. Third Path Iconoclast is a human, it makes teeny tiny constructs. So those 8 cards get you to that discount by itself, and also you're making a spell, you're drawing 2 more cards, hopefully some more spells in there. So it's one of the more powerful synergies in the deck.
Yes, indeed. All right, so here is the cruise. So we can see kind of why Max kicked that Makes His Spirit last turn, because he certainly had some stuff to do in hand, and now, I mean, rebuilds his hand, has some presence on the board, and Raja hasn't had to do much so far in this game. Now might have to deploy more threats, and now that he knows the Strangle's discarded, maybe he'll want to commit something like a Glissa to the board. There are copies of Glissa in the deck. Another card that doesn't really see a lot of play in Pioneer, but they're here.
There's copies of a lot of cards here, Joe. Okay.
Yes, there are.
And there is finally the Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, and potentially Raja may have just given up on the idea of being able to grow to a 4/4 all at once, because Max clearly isn't going to cooperate with that by continually eating his own graveyard. And are there creatures in Raja's graveyard? I don't believe so. I can't make out the card underneath Abrupt Decay. I think that's the Thoughtseize.
Yeah, it looks like it. So yeah, that's a Strangle. So we can eat cards in response, maybe just to okay, so it looks like we're eating the Thoughtseize from our own graveyard to increase the odds that our Tasigur, to clear some of that chaff out the way.
Right. Yeah. So if you're unfamiliar with Tasigur, it's going to mill 2, and then you're going to return the opponent's choice of the non-lands in your graveyard.
Yes. And it looks like is that a Bankbuster underneath
I think
the land?
It is.
Yeah. And crucially, this is being done in response to the Strangle, because Raja doesn't want that Scavenging Ooze back. He wants to do all of this while that's on the stack. So I think we'd quite like to have that Decay facing down this pair of Shredders, but we'll settle for the Bankbuster instead.
No, I think he did get the Decay. The Bankbuster is still in the graveyard.
Oh, okay.
But okay, an attacker comes across here for 3. So the first actual dent he's made in Raja's life total. The other damage was self-inflicted. But this Tasigur, Raja only has a couple cards in hand. He has drawn a lot of lands this game. That has to be said.
Which was great early on in the face of those Mage Disappears. Now starting to bite him a little bit. Worth noting too, if you look at Max's lands, there's a Horde of Storm Giants just chilling under there. And that thing it's kind of weird that blue gets the biggest manland by a massive margin, and it hits so hard, and it's so hard to kill. But in these longer games, right, it is almost always the biggest thing out there, and that can just finish the opponent off in a turn or 2.
Yeah, that is a good point. I've not heard anyone make that before. But yeah, blue having the largest power toughness of a cycle is, I mean, that can't have happened too many times in the history of Magic, right?
That's a color pie break, I think is the technical term.
Okay, so Tasigur comes across for 4 more damage, max down to 8. Probably doesn't have to worry too much about getting burnt out in this matchup, even if he's not entirely sure what all the cards here. And if he's played a lot of Standard lately, maybe he's Invoke Despair is on the radar, but it probably doesn't need to be. So it's going to be creature damage robust. And another, this is so many, this is the most Tasigur activations I've seen in 5 years.
This is a lot of card advantage. We're really redefining that term here and now.
Okay, so Thoughtseize returns to hand there.
The same Thoughtseize is being cast yet again.
All right, Max has a consider in response. Spire Bluff Canal, not what he wanted. And here is the reveal. And Ottawa, Ledger Shredder, Treasure Cruise. Well, I've got my money on what card's going to be taken here. I win. You owe me. All right, Treasure Cruise is taken, and so leaving Shredder number 3 and Ottawa. Interesting setup here, and I believe we know Raja has an Abrupt Decay in hand, so and Max knows that as well.
Yeah, Ottawa kind of a nuisance here for Raja. Just
yes.
Bouncing Tasigur, bouncing Hive with the Eye Tyrant or something for a turn, just making it harder to close out the deal.
Mm-hmm. And Raja may not be too eager to fire for Decay right now because it would trigger Connive. Instead, we're going to see, we're going to trigger it twice, and that's the Glissa. So, Glissa, is it Sunseeker? I'm not even sure what the second part of the name is. Sunslayer.
So I want to say the lore here is 20 years ago in Mirrodin, Glissa was seeking the sun. Now she's being corrupted on the dark side. She's slaying the sun.
Is that? I mean, that's a lofty goal to take out a star, but okay.
It's some real Mr. Burns energy going on there.
All right, so Glissa, a card that definitely sees some play in Standard with a multitude of abilities. Also, basically cannot lose in combat to virtually anything as it has First Strike and Death Touch.
Yeah, you have to put 4 different creatures in front of that thing if you want to hope to deal combat damage to it.
All right, so Max finishes up the Connives. The way with double Connive triggers, you have to choose which Connive trigger is triggering in what order. So he may have preferred to split the counters up, but what ends up happening, the 3 counter Shredder picks up another one. So it is up to a 5 power here. 6 power in the air. Raja's at 7. And like you said, there is the Hall of Storm Giants, unfortunately, cannot attack through Glissa.
Yeah, it's that typical choice of, do you try and spread out the counters to hedge your bets against removal, or do you think, okay, one of these Shredders probably taking one for the team against Glissa, against Tasigur, so want to load up counters on the other one instead?
Yeah, here's Fairy Impulse. And now if Max has enough lands, I believe he does have Raja dead, but I don't think he has enough.
2 looks at it, though.
Right, but I think there's 4 untapped. I can't tell if the Ottawara is revealed or if it's actually in play. The one that's okay, it's just sitting there. So here's one's attack, but Max doesn't actually have to win this turn. Maybe
no.
This game is a different feel than some of the matches we've watched so far today, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, this is good, honest, fair Magic as opposed to Lotus Field comboing off and then going on some weird acid trip, but then vaguely colliding with reality again at some point.
All right, Tasigur comes across again. Max is like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll go to 4, no problem. What else you got? I think Raj just need more than a Tasigur activation this time. I might be wrong, though. 4 mana.
Chariot.
Okay. Those
are some blockers.
Yeah. Well, it's some blockers for Hall of Storm Giants, but not so much for the Flyers here. So can Max? Now we know there's no haste creatures in Max's deck. Raja may not be as comfortable with that assumption.
Chat is taking issue with my description of Treasure Cruise as a fair Magic card. Here's the thing. If the rest of your deck is fair enough, then Treasure Cruise is drawing you 3 fair cards, and then thereby becomes more fair than any other card could possibly be.
I have no objection to that line of reasoning. Yeah, that seems completely fine. As Ottawa takes out one of the tokens, Abrupt Decay takes out one of the Shredders. So, Max conceivably could find a win here with a cheap removal spell for the Wolf token.
Yeah, we saw another Fairy Impulse discarded the previous turn, so I don't know if that means Max has yet another one, or if he just didn't see a use for it and maybe would wish he had it back here.
Okay, lining up mana. All right, it's just going to be a Shredder coming across for 2. Hall of the Storm Giant's also valid as a blocker here, as long as Raja doesn't have another threat to crew the Chariot. But I believe there's a creature land in play here for Raja, so that may not be enough.
Yeah, just animating and attacking. That is lethal, unless there's some missing piece there.
Yeah. I mean, Raja might have, he saw in the opening hand, there was or maybe not the opening hand, but on the discard spell very early on, saw the Fading Hope. So maybe he has to consider whether there could be a bounce spell here to mess things up on a potential attack.
Yeah, it would have to be something that the Hall could cast, right? Because we have 6 lands to animate it and then block, and then the Hall would be able to cast it. So Fading Hope qualifies. That would actually do it.
And yeah, Raja's going to think this through. Decide what he can beat. Raja also not guaranteed dead, but I don't think he's probably going to be too comfortable with the idea of just hoping the Shredder doesn't grow.
Right.
Max so watching. And if you're in Max's seat right now, if you don't have anything, you really want to, what do you want to, what kind of image do you want to convey? Do you want to look confident? Do you want to look weak and try and pretend you're bluffing? Maybe none of that matters. And okay, there it is. Max has nothing. Raja decides, I'm going for it. And Max is like, you got it. Wow.
Fascinating. Okay, so maybe Max could have held back and tried to turtle up, play defense a little more. On the other hand, he might think, okay, if I don't get to attack now, how am I actually closing out this game if my Hall of Storm Giants is getting gummed up on the ground? So took the gamble, didn't pay off, going to head to game 2 here with Raja, 1 game away from potentially knocking up another top 8 berth here on the NRG series. So we see Max's sideboard. We got some Outpost Sieges, a classic grindy matchups card from back in the day, Joe. Unlicensed hers. 3 copies of Roast.
That's
Target standard classic. Like Tasigur, right?
Tasigur and Sheoldred. Yeah. If you could lining up potential removal spells for Max to be in Max's deck, that's the one you would pick.
A perfect roast matchup for sure. Got some other stuff. Got like a Ether Gas to negate, Disable Strokes, 2 Rending Volleys for not this matchup, and then an Abrade. Those roasts I have to imagine coming in. Maybe the Outpost Sieges as well.
Based on, they dodge Abrupt Decay, they generate long-term revenge. Yeah, that might be fitting. All right, let's go ahead and look at Raj's deck while the players are sideboarding here, because Raja Sulaiman also has, like I said at the beginning, there's some cards in here that are not, they're all cards that are played somewhere in the format, I guess, but not necessarily all together. Or is Briarbridge Tracker? How often do you even run into that? I'm not sure I've ever played against one.
You never do, and it's a good card, very solid mid-rangey card. But there are so many of those these days that the bar's high, competition is stiff. So looking at Raja's deck and the sideboard here, probably want more Duress. I think the Thrun I could see actually being good in these longer games. Abrupt Decay we saw do some good work there. Ritual of Soot can clean up everything, right? A whole board full of tokens and the Pyromancers.
An Extinction Event. Extinction Event, maybe even better, because maybe it'll save a Glissa, for example, but it's guaranteed to kill everything that Max has.
That's a very good point. Event on even gets everything and also could leave a 3-drop behind. So maybe if you want to sweep it, that's the one you turn to.
That's tough. Well, I don't know, but that's tough though, because let's just say you only have one. One of them doesn't kill your Glissa, the other one doesn't kill your Sheoldred or your Tasigur.
Yeah, you
maybe you just want both anyway.
Perhaps, yeah. Also some Leyline of the Voids, which if this was a Phoenix matchup, then more Graveyard Synergies probably do want the Leylines. Knowing that Max just has Treasure Cruise, probably not worth it, I would say.
I tend to agree with you, but we'll see what Raja says. And looking at there are other, we just talked about, there are other options he has to bring in. There's no shortage of playable cards he can consider here. So maybe we should change tack and look at what does Raja not want? Liliana? Doesn't seem great.
No, on the play, there's an argument, right? If they have turn 2 Shredder, you get to follow up Liliana. Sure. If they just play out their Pyromancer on turn 2. But yeah, I think Liliana seems like one of the weaker cards. And then there's a question about exactly how much removal do you want? What configuration of that do you want? And then some of these beefier threats, like is Chariot the thing you're looking for here? Bankbuster? Lot of options. Maybe the Oozes actually, like same principle as Leyline. If you think there aren't that many graveyard synergies going on, maybe the Ooze becomes the weaker threat that could get picked off by the damage-based removal.
All right, players are drawing opening hands for game 2. Let's go back to the table for certainly a match that's slightly off kilter from the other ones we've seen so far. But yeah, like you were saying, this is kind of traditional what Magic's supposed to be. If we went back a decade or two, people that might not recognize all these cards, but they recognize the interactions, what's going on. It makes sense.
Yeah, this is a 2015 era fever dream for the older gentlemen among us.
All right, so just a land drop from both sides. Well, new player has 1 drop, so that's no shock. And we have Raja dropping 18 though off of Overgrown Tomb, so maybe holding up Fatal Push on that first turn there. Could Max read that from that result, do you think?
Yeah, that seems likely.
Yeah. And we are going to see Max's hand revealed here. Looks like he's got sufficient mana, maybe more than enough. And did not play creature on turn 2, despite the option to do so.
Yeah. I try to consider to follow it up, get that trigger. And the consider actually taken by Raja, just leaving the Pyromancers, trying to strand them without any spells to work with.
Well, that may be a reasonable plan here. Conquest does drop into play. Having 2 creatures in total, Max conceivably could have run out 1 on turn 2 and then another on turn 3 with the consider. But I wonder if the Fatal Push that Raja does have that he represented turn 1 led Max into taking turn 2 off.
I think so, yeah. And looks like Raja stuck just on 2 lands after kind of flooding out in the first game, but having a lot of ways to use that mana. Stuck on mana for the early part of the second game. But what that means is a lot of spells to work with and a lot of removal here in that case.
All right, so Max drew a second copy of Consider, so is going to pick up 1 token when the second Fatal Push takes down, I stand corrected, 2 tokens as a Spikefield Hazard takes a point of Raja's life total. So, all right, converting a potential land into a potential 1/1 plus a damage. Not high stakes either way, but something.
I wonder if Gigantha might make an appearance in this game. It spent all of game 1 just grazing quietly off the side and maybe could have been relevant, but this might actually be one of those rare Gigantha games.
And we might actually see it soon here. Is this going to be? It is going to be a Channel Sokenzan. So Max is going to get in here. And okay, I take it back. There is actually a haste element to Max's deck as the Sokenzan channel does put 2 1/1s on the board. And well, 1 shock land, 1 Thoughtseize, and 1 attack, and Raja's down to 11.
And Raja's deck is not great at sweeping up a lot of creatures in one go, unless we have those sideboard sweepers that you mentioned. So you either have to trade off 1 by 1 or have a big creature you can put in front of those, but neither seems to be the case right now.
Another Thoughtseize, not quite what the ideal draw off the top here for Raja. Takes Fiery Impulse, leaving Shredder, but dropping to 9 and no additional play. And yeah, so 4th land plus any of the sweepers will stabilize Raja. Otherwise, I mean, life total is dropping awfully fast.
There's also that Den of the Bugbear waiting to be fired up at a moment's notice. We did use 2 lands that could have been that 5th land in the Spikefield Hazard and the Sokenzan, but got decent value out of both of those. Oh.
Wow. Okay, so it looks like a treasure cruise coming in for Max Matteson here. Raja can't be happy about that.
The cruise is not on screen, but we know what this motion means.
If nothing else, this likely ensures Den of the Bugbear can attack next turn. And with Raja being at 7 now, and you're right, there's Jugantha going to hand. So Max with options now for the next turn. Raja is done. Okay, so we're going to see a game 3.
Jugantha pick back up, put back down, doing that nice little dance there. So yeah, I wonder if Raja, we weren't sure how much information he had about the opposing deck before the match, going into game 1, game 2. I wonder now for game 3, back on the play, if he wants to mix it up at all.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, so we can maybe even put his deck list back up, because there are a lot of moving parts here, a lot of options. We talked about the sweepers potentially could come in. Let's look at it from a different way. If Raja doesn't bring in the sweepers, even though it seems like he may want them, what would he be bringing in? I mean, Sky Sovereign. I mean, these 2-mana creatures are okay, and Sky Sovereign flies. That's nice. That doesn't seem like a reasonable option here, does it to you? I don't think it does to me.
It doesn't seem unreasonable, honestly.
Okay.
If you think the ground's going to get gummed up, then you play your Sky Sovereign, you shoot down the thing that's gumming up the board with all the tokens. They probably can't attack into it if you can crit, and then it's immune to a lot of the removal, gets to fly over, shoot down stuff. I don't know. I'm kind of talking myself into it the more I think about it.
Okay. What else do we have here? We have, Abrupt Decay. That likely came in. Okay, so really, if we're not looking at the sweepers, I feel like there's not enough cards to bring in without considering the graveyard hate at that point. So the kind of the straw that broke Raja that game was probably the Treasure Cruise at the end, if we discount the fact that it was missing land drops. So maybe the ley lines are something to be reconsidered.
I don't know. You're trading off against 4 cards in their deck, and that doesn't seem great to me. I wonder how many Duresses Raja wants and how many just spot removal spells Raja wants. Because there's a lot, right? We got 4 push. We have a 3rd decay on the board. We got a go for the throat, 2 power word kills like that. That's a lot of removal. Do we want all of that necessarily?
I wonder if I'd be willing to trim. If I had to trim some stuff, I wonder if a Thoughtseize could go, because we have the Duress, and obviously your life totals, it's under some pressure here. So maybe you want to take out some of that. You certainly don't want to draw 2, I would say, in the first couple turns of the game. So maybe you can trim down to 1 Thoughtseize. I don't really know. Obviously, Raja's gonna have a lot of experience with this kind of deck and with this specific deck, whereas we're just watching from afar. But some of the cards, instant life gain would be nice. Like Sheoldred would be a great draw.
Maybe that's where the Scavenging Ooze comes in, right? Nibble away at the graveyard for Cruise, and also maybe gain 1 or 2 life on the way out. I'm not sure anyone actually has experience with Raja's decks. By definition, he's going to have more than anyone else. So I guess that's the advantage you get playing a brew like that.
No, it is. Of being somewhat of a rogue. It's just going to be, you have your style, but that doesn't mean people are able to accurately guess what cards are actually in it. I mean, if we had told chat before the match, here's the archetype that Raj is playing, how close would they have gotten to the 75?
Right?
No,
I mean,
not so much.
And this is the thing now, is there are so many good mid-range tools that, you could build a Golgari Router deck just like this with half the cards looking different. So I wonder how he arrived at this exact configuration, other than maybe it's just vibes, maybe there's some big brain reasoning that we're not privy to. But if we ever get to interview Raja, maybe we'll poke his brain on that.
Yeah, certainly we will. All right, so players, Raja's still shuffling. Max is presented, so potentially, either Raja's a more thorough shuffler or he's on a mulligan here. We'll find out. But we are getting ready for game number 3. And the winner of this match, based on depending on tiebreakers, may be already set for top 8. We will find out when that time comes. But in these 8 or 9 round events, certainly tiebreakers can come into play at some point. All right. Raja on the play here. All right. Looks like we're keeping. Both players happy. And this time, tapped Overgrown Tomb. By virtue of going first, he doesn't have to hold up Fatal Push on his first turn, so able to just save 2 life points right off the bat.
This is, I assume, Thoughtseize or Duress. There we go. Nice old Lauren Thoughtseize here, seeing a hand of kind of the same hand you always see, right? Like a few different creatures, a few different spells, nothing that really stands out.
Right. Again, 2 Iconoclasts, a Shredder, an Opt, and is that red card in a Braid? I'm not sure what that last red card is in Max's hand. Raja will make his selection. It's tough to take a creature here if you're Raja, even though.
But then which spell do you take, right? Like that's the rub.
Do you take the opt? I mean, the opt is basically worth a token. I guess if you have one removal spell, then you could take Iconoclast and then kill the other one. Or in case you have...
So we're Duressing now, getting that opt. So Roger down to 16, trading off a bunch of cards already.
Mm-hmm. But removing a lot of the early... Well, not really, I guess. Some of the backup pressure, but the early pressure is still there because he cannot deny Max having a 2-drop.
Yeah, hovered over that red card for the second, went for the opt instead. I kind of like it when a player picks up their discard spell and just hovers it around the hand and then eventually like circles down on something.
Yeah, there is one copy of Abrade in Max's 75. So yeah, and okay, now I'm... Is that a different art of roast than I'm used to? I think it's an Abrade.
I didn't know there were different arts of roast.
I don't know if there are either. I just always assume there's other arts, other things. It is Abrade, okay. And here is the Briarbridge Tracker. Maybe we can pop that up, as that might not be a card that everyone is familiar with. A 2/3 Vigilance that is often a 4/3, as long as you have a token, and it comes with a clue. So right on the initial trip into play, it's already a 4/3, and Raja has the option to cash in a card. And we know Raja likes extra cards. He went through all kinds of work with Tasigur in game 1 to pick up extra cards. Here, Briarbridge just comes with one.
Oh, he drew off one behind.
That's so strong for Max. Wow.
You see a little shake of the head there from Raja, who usually, pretty unflappable at the table, but is feeling it here.
Okay, so Max now with some fresh options, and more importantly, maybe after the connive and then drawing 2 cards, is just Raja went from knowing about 3/4 of Max's hand to knowing, like 20% of it. And that's just a lot less knowledge, a lot less certainty for Raja to have to play with here.
It would be a nice spot for Extinction Event, I will tell you that much.
Yes, it would. Yeah, okay, so here's a spot where Strangled, so it would definitely be worse. Raja, can we find a 4th land? That was certainly an issue last game. I think we saw Raja tap the Briarbridge Tracker there. It does have Vigilance, so yeah, okay, an attack comes across.
Okay, there is a power word kill, I think, on the Third Iconoclast. Okay.
Okay. And
so one threat down.
Once again, Raja does not have a 4th land. The greedy play there may have been to draw off the clue to try and hit the 4th land and still play the power word kill, but Raja Discipline doesn't go for that.
If you miss, though, it gets real bad real fast.
Yes, it does. All right, so here's Fiery Impulse with Cell Mastery, and Max will make a token.
Yeah, 1-mana removal spell picked up, so get to keep the Abrade, still get to kill the Briarbridge Tracker, trigger Connive, make a token, attack for 3.
Yeah, this is looking great here for Max Matteson. Basically just doing what he wants. The card draw, the of one mind really kind of pulled this hand together. Raja shakes his head, presumably did not draw a land again. And yeah, all those sweepers aren't going to do any good if you can't cast them. Land count in Raja's deck, if you're curious, 25. So certainly a bit unfortunate here to miss the 4th land drop 2 games in a row.
I will say this is where if your 3-drop is Fable, right? Like if you're stuck on lands, throw 2 cards away, 2 more looks at it. Really valuable at just smoothing out your draw, getting that consistency. Don't have access to that in Golgari. Tracker's a great card, but it's not quite Fable. Nothing really is.
All right, so the 4th land does come off the clue. It's another Overgrown Tomb. Let's see, how much damage is Max looking at here? That Gigantha is not in play, so it's currently 6 coming across at minimum. Here's another Treasure Cruise, and Raja's kind of getting buried here in card advantage. once again maxed with creature lands in play as well. So even if a sweeper is found, there's still damage potentially coming in the next turn. Are there any outs left for Raja here? Can he conceivably escape from this even with perfect draws from this point?
Pick up Gigantha, sure. I mean, if Raja has Extinction Event, that's the first step. It has to be that. And then, okay, fire up down, hit you for 4, you're down to 2. And Chariot, it's a good card, but it's not enough. It's not close to enough.
Yeah.
And especially now, can't crew it with the one of the wolves or one of the cats, excuse me, being killed in a turn.
Yeah, and that's it. Raja extends the fist, not to strike down Max Matteson, but to acknowledge his defeat. And Max Matteson advances to 6 and 1. Congratulations to him. All right. No rest of the weary. We are back on us, and we're going to go into live game 3 of our backup match. So Dom and I will jump right into that, whatever it is. So go ahead and take us in.
All right. So we have a fascinating match between 2 players. For example, on the left, here we go.
Josh
Versus on Rakdos Sacrifice, which we saw in the hands of Theo Jung, who will be playing for top 8 this round as well. And then on the right, Leonardo Reith on 5-color Niv Mizzet, a staple of Pioneer across the years. One that just kind of fallen out of favor, but always a joy to see. I don't know. There's something about just Niv Mizzet as a card and then the deck as a whole that just kind of tickles me.
Yeah, no, I enjoy this too. And it's obviously it's going to share a lot with the 5-color Omnath that we saw, I believe, Jesse Robkin playing earlier today. It's just the choice of maybe you have to structure what spells in your deck. You want to play more gold cards if you're actually playing Niv Mizzet as a tutor target for Bring to Light, as opposed to just Omnath. Both are present in Leonardo's deck. And we are in game 3 here. 2 players at 5 and 1. All right. Well, we had a matchup of 2 entertaining fair decks last round. And I think we could make that statement about this again as well, right? Like 5-color Niv Mizzet, this is a fair deck. Rakdos Sacrifice, yeah.
We have a Niv Mizzet's forever friend Claudio in the chat here. It's the biggest champion cheering it on. We'll see if he can send Niv Mizzet his energy.
All right, well, Claudio, yeah, you can back us up, right? This is a fair deck. What arguments can we make that these aren't fair decks? Are there any? I mean,
fair as in handsome, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, Leyline Binding can be really good, but it's answerable. A Bring to Light is a fun card. It's a fun. If you're looking at these decks, these are fun decks, right? These aren't unfair. These aren't overpowering decks. They're just fun. They're even maybe underpowered. They're just decks.
Wow. Okay. We spoke about nostalgia. I know Bring to Light was your kick in Standard back in the day.
It was. I loved Bring to Light. It was just so. I mean, but the power level was so different then. Like my big one trump card was Bring to Light for Silumgar's command. I don't think we're going to find that in Leonardo's deck here. Let's just check.
We can probably find some better Dimir cards to dig out with our
Polygon's command. Come on. Prismari command. See, that's the problem. They printed a new command and bumped mine out. He does have Growth Spirals. Growth Spiral is a card that I tried to find a home for in Pioneer. I do like that card. I didn't end up doing anything with it, but Growth Spiral is a nice card. All right, we're underway here. We're going to have a Thoughtseize from Josh Feliciano.
As is often the case with Niv Mizzet, it's a very strange mix of lands and a strange mix of spells at the same time.
Yeah, and what does that say to you? It says fun. All right.
Yes.
Just play some lands here for Leonardo. Niv Mizzet, often a fast deck. Its form of acceleration does exist, but as we saw, it was taken by the Thoughtseize. And Josh underway here with Blood Tithe Harvester. Nothing unfair about this card either. It's just, I mean, every card these days comes with a clue or a blood or some ability to filter a card advantage, something or other, 2-for-1, right? Everything. It's a different era we live in nowadays.
Yeah, Gigantha being picked up here for Leonardo. This is kind of a funny Gigantha deck in the sense of you tap it for 5 colors. You can plausibly use all 5 of that color.
Oh, that's so true. That's cool.
In the space of a turn.
But certainly not. No, I don't know. I maintain that Gigantha's the frequency of Gigantha actually doing anything is very, very small. And here's nice. So Extinction Event from Leonardo and Josh with an excellent response in help me out here. What's the name of the Deadly Dispute?
Deadly Dispute. Yeah, Leonardo using the Extinction Event as a 4-mana spot removal spell, which got trumped in the worst way possible by Deadly Dispute.
Okay, and Leonardo's hand revealed again, showing the Gigantha, and that's a Vanishing Verse, I think. So removal or Gigantha. I mean, Gigantha getting hit by discard spell would probably be one of the best uses of Gigantha we've seen so far today. And there you go.
And there is Fable. We saw early on in the hands of Jesse Robkin the spiritual successor to this Niv Mizzet deck in just 5-color Bring to Light, right? Mm-hmm. But without Niv Mizzet, you don't have to incentivize yourself to play all of these wonky gold cards. You can play Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You can play these kind of more conventional cards, and I'm sure Leonardo would love to have something like a Fable in this spot.
Oh, that is probably true. Vanishing Verse takes out the token. So yeah, Fable is such a cheap, good card that does need to be answered twice, and which is, I guess, why we're seeing it in every format in existence. I don't know about Vintage. I don't really follow Vintage, but I know it's shown it's found a place in Legacy, Modern, Pioneer, Standard. I guess it's illegal. Once they reprint a few times, it gets downgraded to Common. It'll be in Pauper too.
Interesting that Leonardo used the verse on the Goblin and just let the Fable stick around, keep rummaging. We've got a second Fable here joining the party.
Yeah, there's a
likely a Triumph. Okay.
All right, 5 mana. That's the flashpoint. What do we got?
Okay, this is a good draw.
Yeah, Niv Mizzet. Here we go. Flipping over 10. Looking for non-overlapping gold cards. This can dramatically change what's in the hand here. Ooh.
And okay, 2 hits. A Pasari command and a Colligan's command. The 2 playable commands, Joe, in this deck. So that's fine, but if you're Josh, it could be a lot worse, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a Siligar's command. But, okay, Prismari command, Colligan's command. So what impact can that have next turn? A couple of creatures can get picked off. Maybe a creature. I guess maybe the most important is the Niv Mizzet being on the board is now dramatically bigger than everything Josh has.
Pretty hard to kill too. You're not claiming that thing, not fatal pushing it. So it's usually down to like the 1 or 2 copies of stuff like Eaten Alive or Dreadbore, stuff like that to get that thing off the board.
Yeah, I'm sure Leonardo's counting on this standing firm for the moment. I'm sure Josh was going to kill it. It would have gone down immediately. But maybe he can make his way around it with reflections, with reflection copies in a couple turns. We'll see. But the pair of commands will probably put a stop to that.
And one nice thing about the Niv Mizzet deck is with one of your big payoffs being Bring to Light, the fact that Niv Mizzet can find Bring to Light as one of those gold cards, you can just chain those together, always have something left over.
So, and even though Leonardo didn't hit all that well on Niv Mizzet, he did basically impulse for 10 to find other strong cards. Like whatever, like you were saying, the next Bring to Light is 10 cards closer than it used to be. So
there's also I know people joke a lot about deck thinning, but if the thing you want isn't in the top 10 cards and you get to get those out of the way, your odds are a little better for your actual draw step.
Yeah. So, okay, Leyline Binding on Reflection. Josh has mentioned potentially no Deadly Dispute. Yes, indeed. So we saw this a couple times yesterday. Leyline Bindings that targeted tokens or got blanked, just sitting on the board to potentially be reset later on. I don't know that we're going to see that here. But it does stay out there regardless.
Thinking about how and when to use these 2 different commands.
So with 5 land available, both commands are still castable, right? Because Prismari command can make a treasure.
Yeah. I imagine he'll want to shock something and loot. Although if you... Oh, okay. We're buying... The Colligan's command, buying back Sylvan Chariot.
And the other mode, I didn't... Did the other mode shock Josh? Is Leonardo just trying to line up a kill next turn with Niv Mizzet?
Crazy. Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, nothing else appeared to die on the board, so I think that is what happened.
I kind of like it, honestly. Getting aggro.
Wow, it's very aggressive. But now he has his Chariot. He knows that's going to block next turn. No way that Josh is removing that.
And hey, if the Niv Mizzet dies, the Prismari command, you got 2 redraws at something more relevant.
Meanwhile, I mean, Leonardo can assume, I mean, the Niv Mizzet survived last turn, which it wouldn't have if Josh had anything to do about it. So forcing him to have something, basically come off the top here, maybe, or off of Unlucky Witness to be able to get through, to survive. All right. Mayhem Devil. So Leonardo somewhat paid off for trying to reduce the amount of Fable-generated treasures that are on the board.
Can we count to 6 to shoot down that Niv Mizzet? It's going to be tricky.
It is. And Josh's body language does not inspire confidence here.
No, if you could copy that Devil with Fable, then it's more realistic, but... Okay, so...
Interesting. All right.
So we're shooting Witness with our own Mayhem Devil, it looks like.
Yeah.
Just desperately dig.
Creative play is something that certainly needs to be in the toolbox, but it's... Yeah, Josh trying to figure out a way here, and it may not be there.
Yeah, if we look back at this game, Leonardo didn't really do anything, right? Like, didn't play that many removal spells. His attempts to interact kept getting Trump Identity Dispute, but eventually just cast a big dragon, and that drew him some more card, and just kept attacking every turn, and that was it. That was enough.
Yeah, okay, we have reached turns. That may also represent some of the pause. We're in turn 0 now, although I would be hard-pressed to imagine how we won't finish this match in time. Well, I guess if Josh is able to deal with the Niv Mizzet, then maybe we could get there. But for now, we are in turn 0. 5 turns remain to go. When this concludes, we will take a break and then come back with the last round of the Swiss. Don't go anywhere. We appreciate you being here. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. And if you are and you want to follow and get notified of future NRG events, do so. And that is it. Leonardo Ruiz will advance to 6-1 over Josh Feliciano with Niv Mizzet itself and really not a lot else. It just did the job.
Yeah, the People's Dragon poised to be in our top 8 here. So we will send it over to a quick break. Hopefully this round will have a bit of a shorter turnaround time than the long, drawn-out extensions we had last time around. But hopefully we will have some more magic here for you before too long. Don't go anywhere.